Welcome to Pretty Lies and Alibis. Let's seek the truth and travel the long road to justice together. What you know, Alibuyers, welcome to another episode of Pretty Lies and Alibis. I'm Gigi. Good to have you here. It's Wednesday, March 11th. The day started late in day 12 of the Kouri Richins trial, but I have more notes for half a day than I have for a lot of this trial, so let's jump right in. The defense brings Carmen Lauber back to the stand. She was on probation since May of 2023, and then she was released after giving interviews. That probation was sent to Summit County. Detective Maynard was the one over her probation, and she texted him pretty much daily, and she signed a paper on her conditions of bond. Have you violated any conditions of the bond? No. You haven't? Carmen asks if she's referring to the weapon found in her room, and Lewis asks about alcohol. Carmen said she went to a concert and violated the terms in November of 2023. Did you violate in October of 2023 with alcohol? Carmen said instead of paying back her friend for tickets to the concert, they asked if she would buy drinks and snacks, and she was seen holding a drink. The defense shows her a document saying she told Detective Maynard she drank alcohol. She's asked if she also violated her probation by missing curfew at 9 and going to the concert. Carmen said she left early and maybe got home right after 9. She had an ankle monitor on, so they would have known where she was. Did you write a letter to the judge asking to go to Vegas once a month? You said you had been in compliance. That wasn't true, was it? Carmen says no. On redirect, you testified about a gun that was seized April 6, 2023. Probation started a month later? Yes. And the last witness for the state, they have not rested, by the way. He is still on the stand and will be back tomorrow. Lead Detective Det O'Driscoll. He's been lead detective since March of 2023 after Detective Woody left to join the K-9 unit. He wanted to start fresh with the case, but he knew Eric had large amounts of fentanyl in his blood and gastric contents. And to him, there were 3 possibilities. Number 1, an accidental overdose. Number 2, he ingested it to self-harm. And number 3, somebody gave him fentanyl to kill him. He got Eric's prescription history, and it showed he had not been prescribed fentanyl. They did find 2 texts between Eric and Kouri from November 20th, 2021, talking about THC gummies. In the text, they're talking about Eric going to a rodeo. Kouri tells him to take a gummy. Eric says he wants to eat first, and Kouri says steak sounds good. They show another text from January 13th, 2022. Eric to Kouri. The boys are wondering when you're coming home. Kouri, no, you are you, and you are wondering, not them. I'll call you on my way. Eric, no, I would never go hang out with the girls and miss the boys' games and scouts. Sorry, but that's not something I would ever think about doing. Another text 2 days later, January 15th, 2022, Kouri to Eric. Can you bring me home soup, please? Eric to Kouri. Yep, what you want, beautiful. Kouri, thank you. If Dairy King isn't too busy, that works, whatever they have. Or chicken noodle at Neater's, whatever. Eric says gummy time, and Kouri says yes. Wasn't just Eric taking those gummies. And they go into the book Kouri wrote. He heard about the book from other officers who shared a link to that local news channel, and he watched the interview Kouri gave. They publish a still photo of Kouri on the show promoting the book. Kouri was the one who reached out to ABC Utah, and that's how she ended up on the show. She used a form asking to be on, and they show that. It says she's requesting to be on Good Things Utah. She's a self-author. It's not a nonprofit, and she is promoting a children's book. They asked for a short summary. Kouri says, I've just written what appears to be the first children's book about losing a parent. My husband passed away last year, and we have 3 young boys. I wrote this book to help kids find comfort and peace when losing a parent or anyone close to them. I hope to promote it on your show to help parents comfort their children with such a tragic life event. They tell Kouri she can come on. She says, that's amazing news, so excited. And then she sends a link to the book. They ask if she can share 3 steps on helping kids cope with the loss of a parent, in addition to promoting the book while on the show. Kouri said she would love to, and they asked Kouri to send over her talking points for that segment. Kouri sends the 3 C's of coping: connection, keeping the person's spirit alive who has passed, talking about them, sharing memories of them, doing the things they used to do, letting children tell stories of those loved ones. The second C is continuity. Try and keep routines and schedules as normal as possible. Sports, school pickups and drop-offs, living situation, friends, etc. Keep their normal daily environment for as long as possible. And the last C is care. Affirming their feelings, understanding when they are sad, mad, lonely, and talking about those feelings and letting them know it's okay. Not changing their feelings, but letting them cope with the stages of grief with plenty of hugs, kisses, and empathy. She also sends the news station a promo code for the book. Kouri also promoted the book on a radio show, and they pull up a photo from the website of that appearance. The sheriff's office got an anonymous package with Kouri's book and a note saying there's two sides to every story. This is the true Kouri, devoted wife and adoring mother. Thought you should know from anonymous. So they sent a subpoena to Amazon and found out it was Kouri's mom who sent the book. And by the way, Kouri had a ghostwriter for this book. Kouri also texted her family about the book, so they bring in some of these from February 18th through the 22nd. This is between Kouri and her brother DJ. DJ sends a photo. You couldn't tell what it said. The thumbnail was just too small, and Kouri replies, ha ha ha. DJ, what's the book called? Kouri sends a screenshot and said it turned out so cute, just something for the boys, and to understand the book writing process to get ready for the big one. DJ, when is it on Amazon? Kouri, we submit on Thursday for review, and they approve 24 to 48 hours, and then it will be live. So I'm thinking Monday. I'll have the final draft tomorrow night. DJ, awesome. So proud of you. Kouri, thanks, bro. I'm excited. I don't really feel like it's real unless I have an official copy, though. So we will see. I just want to understand the book process, so I'm ready to go. I've already spoken to a writer for my book. I'm debating starting it now, and they can just start on quite a few chapters before all this is over just to get a jump start. Not sure. DJ, what's something like that cost? Assuming you have to alternate names. Kouri says, so the kid's book wasn't bad at all, assuming everything turns out the way it's supposed to. It cost $2,500. The bigger book, yes, we have to change names. I also want to talk to my attorney about other precautions to take to avoid a lawsuit from them for defamation or if changing names is enough. That book will be expensive. Just for the ghostwriter to write the manuscript, 130 pages is $5,000. I'm assuming it'll be closer to 250 pages. So $10,000 for the manuscript. This lady does payment plans, so you just pay per month as it's being worked on. Total time, 2 to 4 months. I might just start my recordings now and wait to sign up until May when more money comes in, hopefully. LOL. More text, February 28th. DJ, did the book launch? Kouri says not yet. I made some last-minute changes. They'll get the changes back to me today and hopefully Friday. I had them add in this picture in the beginning. I looked at it. It's a photo of the family like in cartoon form with their backs turned sitting. Eric is in wings and has a halo, and he's got his arm around Kouri and one of the boys. More text, March 1st. DJ, good luck, lil sis. You have nothing to worry about. Stay calm. Kouri, thank you. You can log on and watch if you want to. 2:00. Text between Kouri and her mom, March 8th, 2023. Kouri to mom, where are you? Kouri's mom sends an image, and it looks like it's from the book. Kouri, no, it's not on Amazon yet. Mom, okay. Kouri says, I'll let you know. Haha, no, my title is Are You With Me? Haha, I don't know what I was thinking. Then her mom says, where is ya? Kouri says, working in office. March 22nd, Kouri and DJ. DJ, yep, think Carter Kouri sounds good. How much do you make per book? Kouri, haha, it sounds way better. Oh my God, they would die. It would be so funny. So on Amazon, I only make $5.35 a book. They print and ship. I'm working on a website that you can buy the book through, and I'll make $10 a book. DJ says, nice. Kouri says, yeah. The next 30 days are just extreme marketing. My goal is to sell 100,000 books by the end of the year. So they move on to talk about Carmen and how they got her to cooperate. They got call records for Kouri, and they found discrepancies from that call record and what was on Kouri's phone. Carmen was one of the most frequent contacts of Kouri. So they started looking into Carmen. They found her criminal history and also that she was on drug court probation. Detective Maynard had previous involvements with Carmen, and they spoke with investigators from another county who was familiar with her case. They learned Nick Bond-Savage was close with Carmen, and he had been making calls while he was in jail, so they listened to some of those calls. On March 4th, the day Eric died, Nick was talking to another inmate about getting an Xbox controller for that inmate. He said, either you buy it or have Carmen buy it and I'll pay you back. Nick said no. Carmen refused money from him earlier in the week because she made a bunch of money selling drugs. That put Carmen really on their radar, and they started watching her. They collected her trash and found drug paraphernalia. They wrote a search warrant for her residence and her person. That included cell phones. That search warrant was executed April 26, 2023. They found THC products, drug paraphernalia, and a firearm under her bed, which was a big deal because she was a convicted felon. They also found a news clipping of Eric's obituary. I've heard about this for years, that she kept it on her mirror, and she did. Also, there is a C&E hat hanging on her wall with other hats. During the search warrant, Carmen was stopped while driving, and her phone was seized. The officer who stopped her found she was driving on a suspended license, and she was arrested. He and Detective Maynard interviewed Carmen several times over the next few days. When they were doing the search warrant and seeing the obituary, they thought maybe she felt bad about Eric's death and would want to talk to them in exchange for reduced charges. You guys don't need a reminder, but this is something investigators do all the time. They want to get the person that had the intent to kill, which would have been Kouri, not Carmen. He said Carmen has a history of protecting herself and she has trouble remembering details, and initially minimized her involvement. She said she knew a little, and in the end, she said Kouri asked her to get pain pills. She kept saying she wanted to help but was having trouble remembering things. They showed her property records, maps, or anything that would help get a timeline going. They often told Carmen, we need more details. Her interviews were video and audio recorded. They had around 6 meetings for 10 hours, and the transcript of those meetings was over 1,000 pages. He's asked if the interviews were misleading as the defense presented them, and he said yes. About the get-out-of-jail-free statement they made to Carmen, he said they were making sure she understood the importance of the death investigation versus any drug investigations into her. He also addresses where Carmen asked them to write it down and then she would sign it. She was worried about writing things in her cell block, so that's why she asked them to write it down. And he told her that's not how it works. They bring in part of an interview that they had with her while she was in jail. Carmen admits that her drug use has affected other people's lives. And she said if Eric was killed on purpose, he did not deserve that, but she can't say for sure it was done on purpose. She said she would never do that to anybody. They're asking her to give more details and also to be honest. So Carmen talks about the drug exchange. She said it was dark. She used the headlights from her car to put the drugs inside the fire pit. And Kouri had money in an envelope with no writing on it. They tell Carmen that drug court wants 7 years for her, but if she helps with the investigation, she needs to be specific, which would guarantee Kouri gets convicted of murder. And Carmen says, oh my God. She says she'll do whatever, and she wants to finish up with drug court. She said she loves Eric and wants to help. Carmen then says Kouri asked for the Michael Jackson stuff. And they tell her they want to give her the get-out-of-jail-free card. And also, there's 3 boys without their dad. And Carmen said the boys love their daddy. Another interview from May 12th, Detective Maynard tells her their goal is to convict Kouri. Carmen says she has court on Wednesday for the grand jury, and she asked if she's also going to be charged, and they tell her no. Detective O'Driscoll arrested Kouri after she dropped her sons off at school. They found the orange notebook on her side of the bed. So let's read through what that says. This is an entry detailing the day before Eric died and into his death. She said it started as a typical day. One of the boys had a dental appointment, and after that, Kouri dropped him off at home so she could go to her weekly volunteering at the school. That night, they ate dinner, and the evening ended as any other did. She read the kids' books, and Eric had been texting most of the evening in a text war with a hunting guy from Mexico and a few other people. He was trying to get his horns that I guess came off something he shot back to the U.S. Between 9 and 9:15, Eric was screaming mad and threw his phone. He said, let's go have a celebration drink. The next day, I was closing on a huge investment home in Midway. Been working on that 4 months and it was finally here. They got the ingredients for the drink together and also had a lemon drop shot. Eric was going on and on about the guys in Mexico and so mad about the entire situation. She goes through the whole story of they go to bed. She hears their son having a nightmare. As she's leaving the room, her and Eric kiss, say I love you, and she went to lay down with her son. 30 minutes later, she hears Eric snoring and she fell asleep. March 4th, 3:20 a.m., she went back to her bed. It was dark and awkwardly quiet. Eric snores more often than not, and she thought it was weird. She didn't hear anything. She put her arm over him, but he was cold, so she pulled the blanket up. But his body felt strange. It was heavy, so I nudged him and said, Eric. Nothing. I kept nudging him and remembered the stiffness of his body. She jumped out of bed and turned the lights on, and he was pale and yellow, and his mouth was open. I grabbed my phone and called 911. He didn't have a pulse and wasn't breathing. Panic set in as I talked to dispatch. She had me pull Eric to the floor to do CPR. As much as I didn't want him basically falling to the ground, I pulled hard and got him down and began CPR until EMS arrived. They put the machine on him to do CPR, and the worst part was when they were pumping his lungs, blood went everywhere. I screamed at the EMT, they're not doing it right, he shouldn't be bleeding. I screamed, cried, sat in the corner by my dresser, rocking back and forth, hoping and praying this was a dream, fading in and out of the moment, hoping to go back to the night before where we were laughing, kissing, and saying goodnight. The EMT finally asked me to leave the room. He could see I was visibly upset and couldn't function. He took me to the living room and had me sit down. I couldn't. I called Mom and told her to come quick. Something is wrong with Eric and EMS is here. I hung up, paced, and dropped to my knees praying this wasn't happening. The EMT walked in to tell me he didn't make it. We did all we could do. I lost it. I immediately ran to the bathroom and started throwing up. My kids woke up and I yelled for them to stay in their room, but they knew something was up. They saw the cop cars and ambulance, and I could feel their fears through the walls, but didn't have the courage to dare see them or talk to them at this point. That is like the opposite of how I would be, but you do you, Kouri. I was curled up around the toilet when my mom walked in. She rubbed my back. She already knew he was gone. We couldn't speak. She recounted the story about the night before to her mom going to bed with her son. Kouri told them she needed to call her father-in-law, and she did. She told him something is wrong with Eric, and he needed to come over quick. EMS is here, and he's not breathing. She said Eric's dad was perky when he answered, almost like he was expecting the call, and she says it was very strange. Kouri also has a timeline that is scattered in dates, but I did the best I could. March 4th, Eric passes away. March 5th, Bryce, Allie, Bree, Ronnie, and Amy sleep over. We have a few drinks and reminisce. We laughed, cried, danced all night. Earlier that afternoon, Katie asked about a green folder and if I knew where it was. I told her I didn't know what she was talking about. She quickly changed the subject, saying we would figure this out. March 6th, called the locksmith to open the safe to look for this green folder. The code had been changed and I couldn't open it. Amy tried to stop me from opening it. There's a part that's redacted and it says the cops were called. This is when Kouri punched Amy. March 7th, picked up truck. March 8th, met with the funeral home. The 11th, funeral. 22nd, Kouri starts counseling, and March 26th, the boys start counseling. She goes back. March 12th, Cody cleaned out garage. March 14th, Cody took computers. April 11th, Detective Woody called asking to talk on the 12th or 13th. Sky, which is her former attorney, said the 14th. Search warrant on the house. The 28th, filed first complaint against the trust for the house. May 3rd, filed for partial summary judgment on C&E. January 10th, Detective Woody calls Chelsea for interview. January 12th, Chelsea goes for interview and is lied to that she was the last person I talked to at 11 p.m. Chelsea checked her phone records. We never spoke that night. January 13th, Jim drives red truck for oil change. Cody finds out and goes to get it. July 17th, 2022, find out about the private investigator. He was outside my neighbor's while Carter's 10th birthday party was happening. September 7th, Amy driving by the house to take photos. November 7th, Amy served with subpoena. November 20th, first court hearing. Katie and Amy wouldn't turn on cameras. Judge reschedules for March 2nd to determine if the kids need to be involved and if the PI has to follow subpoena orders and give us his info. November 23rd, I find Eric has been consulting with a divorce attorney. Fast forward to November 7th, 2024, there is another search warrant at the home, and they bring in a document. Kouri has a timeline of events from the night before Eric died. 6 to 6:30, Eric gets home. It says fighting with Mexican, drink in bed. He drank half, brushed his teeth. I was in bed. Talked through doorway, Moscow mules, lemon water vodka. March 21st, gone. And then it has funeral, didn't have my phone. They bring in a text between Eric and Kouri from January 5th, 2022. And Eric talks about a friend he saw saying it was crazy for him not to shoot a ram. He said it was too small. But Kouri has a list of items she needs quotes for repairs on. An investor is thinking he'll come in at the full $2.9 million, which adds up to $4 million. Eric says, I have no idea. I would be way off just trying to guess. At 10:08 p.m., Eric says it's bedtime. Why are you still up? Kouri says it has to be done tonight. She has a meeting tomorrow with him. Eric says he thinks it will come out to $6 million, and Kouri says, oh my God, never mind. Eric texts her back, breaking down the cost, and Kouri says, thank you, kind sir, that's what I needed. Go to bed. Eric says, love you. Kouri says, love you, good night. Eric texts her back, add another $250,000 more for driveway and landscape, and Kouri says, okay, cool, done. $4,450,000. Still not bad in all. 7.35 sells for $14 million to be safe. Eric says, yeah, but I'm low on a bunch of things, and remember, we don't have time to do this project. Kouri says, that's fine. He knows it's a guess for now. No, we're doing it. But Matt doesn't finance anything without an analysis to give to his investors. They want to see some sort of numbers. March 2nd, 2022. This is about the Midway mansion. Eric says, want to grab lunch? Kouri can't, but she asks if he wants to have a celebration shot later. She needs to work on paperwork because everyone is funding tomorrow. She's also going on a walk with somebody named Virginia. Eric says, okay, love you too. They bring in some text from her jail tablet. This is on May 4th, 2023. It's a text between Kouri and her brother DJ. Did Eric ever talk about self-harm? Kouri says not specifically. He would say, if anything happens to me, you guys will be set for life, when he would go hunting or snowmobiling, that kind of thing. May 31st, 2023, text from a jail tablet between Kouri and mom. Her mom says, Hayden, who's that? The guy that worked for us? Kouri, yes. Mom, that's weird. About what? I hardly even know him. I helped him do a business license and get insurance once. Another one wanting their 15 minutes of fame. They bring in a couple of jail calls, and they're mainly talking about the Valentine's Day incident, the alleged attempted murder, and they're just laughing about that, essentially, talking about leaving a love note with a sandwich, and that was the bulk of it. They admit the walk the dog letter in. It was found in her cell and written on September 12th or 13th, and they found it on the 14th. I'm going to link something in the description to where you can go read the walk the dog letter, but I'll give you a quick summary. The allegation is that Kouri was trying to tell her family what to say that would support that Eric overdosed himself. They need to make the connection to Mexico. Her brother Ronnie and Eric talked about getting high, that kind of thing. And she tells them to change it however they need to. And that was the end of direct for Detective O'Driscoll. On cross, did you talk to Ronnie, that's Kouri's brother, about parts of the letter that reference him? The witness said they tried, but they weren't able to. Same with the text where Eric referenced getting high. They tried to talk to him, but they didn't get to. Also, they did not search Ronnie's phone. Did you confirm with Ronnie what Kouri said about Eric putting drugs in Kouri's bag without her knowledge, which would cause a fight? They also mentioned Kouri's friend testified to that last week. He did not talk to her friends about that. The defense talks about part of the walk the dog letter asking if Eric told Ronnie he keeps an allergy pill bottle in his work truck so Kouri wouldn't find the pills. Did you tell Kouri about finding the empty oxycodone bottle by the bed? The witness said he didn't find it. It was found the night Eric died, and it was sent to the medical examiner's office with Eric's body. Remember, O'Driscoll came in much later in the case after Detective Woody went to work with the canine, so he wasn't here for any of this. He's asked about Cody picking up the work truck. The detective said he heard his testimony. By the way, if you're watching on screen, I posted this yesterday with permission. This is Eric's work truck. Now, it was brown, however. Cody did repaint it to a gray, and on the side is Eric's name with his birth year and his death year. People have asked, why would he repaint the truck? And I would think that, you keep that truck for sentimental reasons, but you maybe don't want to ride around in that truck and people who knew and loved Eric see it going down the road or coming in their driveway. I don't think that's odd at all. Was the walk the dog letter delivered to her mom, her lawyer, her brother? He doesn't think so. They ask about what was found in Carmen's garbage. Well, there was no fentanyl found. He's asked about interviewing Chelsea, Kouri's friend. He talked to her before Kouri's arrest. It was April 2023 at her home, not at the sheriff's office. Regarding them telling her they had evidence her and Kouri talked the night of Eric's death, he said Chelsea and Kouri texted daily and there was a gap from March 2nd through the 4th. But she did give evidence they did not talk that night, but he thought maybe messages had been deleted because, they found out she had deleted hundreds. There was no fentanyl found inside Carmen's house. Carmen did deny being asked for fentanyl by Kouri. She said her daughter OD'd on it and she doesn't touch it. But if you remember, when Crozier got back to Carmen, he said he had fentanyl. She asked Kouri and Kouri said that was okay. The defense asked about telling Carmen she is the biggest piece. He said they told her she was the biggest piece and she held all the cards. Days after Carmen admitted fentanyl, Kouri was arrested and he says, yep, where's the hydrocodone bottle? He said it's been in a few places, but currently the sheriff's office doesn't have it. He's asked about where Eric was on Valentine's Day, and he doesn't know. She says, you can't tell this jury where he was on the day where it was alleged Kouri attempted to murder him. He said he doesn't know, but someone on his team may know, and he can ask. He also says while he was the lead detective, there were others making decisions. Was Eric around the Midway house when Carmen left drugs? And he doesn't know. Show me the text messages where Eric and Carmen are texting. You can't. The witness said there was one additional drug deal after Eric's death. Did Carmen do any work for Kouri the week she got the check from Kouri? He doesn't know. There were around 10 search warrants executed on Kouri's house, and they never found any trace of fentanyl. None of the pills that Kouri got from Carmen were recovered or tested, and he doesn't know about the ones taken from Carmen's house. The defense points out before Eric's death, he was on a trip to Mexico to hunt. He said Eric did search the distance from Utah to Mexico the night he died. How many pills did Kouri get each time? 15 to 30. Did you give Carmen rides to meet with her lawyers? Sometimes. And they end the day asking about the gifts on Kouri's phone. There was an objection that led to a sidebar, and the judge dismissed for the day. So tomorrow, he will still be on cross. I fly out of here about 11:30. I'm hoping to watch the rest of his testimony on the plane. Sometimes you can't get YouTube to work well on the plane. If there's anything major, I will do a very brief update because once I fly into Salt Lake, I have an hour drive to get where I'm going for the weekend before I come back for trial. So it could be just a very quick YouTube short. And then I will be in court Monday through Thursday of next week. There is no court next Friday. So next time I see you guys, it will be from Utah. Hope you guys have a good rest of your evening, and we will see you soon.